Hey, this is Kez.
And Will.
And this is Nightmares at Midnight. Hi everybody, welcome back. This is episode 15. And today we're going to be talking about two different but related topics. We're talking about Skinwalkers and Skinwalker Ranch. I have my husband Will here with me, and he knows a lot about this topic, so he'll be doing majority of the talking as my voice is not fully returned yet. So I'm just going to tell you where you can listen to our episodes at, the typical spiel. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, Podcast Index, TuneIn Plus Alexa, and Podcast Addict. And I always forget to mention iHeartRadio. And on our website, you can listen directly. And this is the way that I can tell how many downloads my episodes are getting at nightmaresatmidnightpodcast.buzzsprout.com. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Nightmares at Midnight Podcast. And on Facebook, I post way more there than anywhere else about the upcoming episodes. This last week, I posted on Facebook about what today's episode will be about, guessing by pictures and images. And then don't forget to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Nightmares at Midnight Podcast, where you can support our podcast and keep the episodes coming. Seeking occupational therapy services for your child in the Wasilla and Palmer area and you're on a waiting list? Clinic setting just isn't cutting it? Too many options or not enough? Wild Free Kids OT may be your answer. With no wait lists and extensive training, experience working with children and adolescents with behavior issues, we offer mobile, community, and nature-based OT where it matters most. You get real results, learning alongside your child and without compromising your way of life. Give us a call at 907-215-4438 or check us out on Facebook or online, Wild Free Kids OT. Okay, and with that, we're going to jump right into the topic, so I'm going to let you go ahead.
Okay, so the origins of Skinwalkers seem to come from Navajo tribes. Magic is very common in Navajo belief. They don't see magic as something that comes from supernatural or any kind of exalted beings. They have medicine men and women, and that's kind of the people that are practitioners of magic in positive ways. And then they have skinwalkers, who are witches, that use magic in nefarious ways.
So these types of witches, they have the ability to turn themselves into or possess or disguise themselves as an animal. Like he said, the skinwalker term is never used for a healer or positive. That's always negative. And they mainly used to be humans that transitioned over. They are seen most frequently as wolves or coyotes or foxes, eagles, owls, or crows, which that's scary enough for me as it is.
So one of the things that I read was there's kind of a, Navajo coven of skinwalkers, and you kind of have to be initiated. I can neither confirm nor deny the level of accuracy of that, seeing as the Navajo people don't really like to talk publicly about it. That's kind of one of the things that's part of their culture, and they don't want other people taking it over or assimilating it, and I kind of understand that. To become a full-on skinwalker, like I said, you have to be a practitioner of kind of like black magic or dark uses of it, and one of the last steps from what I was reading to become part of this group of skinwalkers is a murder of a close relative, and once you accomplished that, they would allow you into the group, and there was a whole ceremony with rituals and basically a dark rituals, and practitioners would all get together in some kind of cave or out in the middle of nowhere away from everybody else. And this place was making it seem like skinwalkers would commonly, in their day-to-day lives, walk around looking like a regular person, and then as they were going to be practicing their black magic, they would transform into whatever creature or take control of whatever kind of wildlife they needed, depending on what the task called for, whether it was speed or claws or teeth or stealth. They could pick what they would turn into.
So, backing up just a little bit, the Navajo culture, a skinwalker, I'm going to hopefully get this right, is Yi-Naldushi. I think that's how you pronounce it. That translates to he who walks on all fours. And when they're not transformed into animals, witnesses have described skinwalkers as hollowed out creatures that look a little like dogs. So, as you can tell, there is different reports of what they look like. They are from different tribes too, not just Navajo. The Ute tribe has interacted with them a lot as well. We'll talk more about it in a little bit, but Navajo and Ute clashed for a while, and one curses the other. The skinwalkers we're talking about, they've been spotted in Arizona and Utah and North Carolina. Those are the three main states that we talk about. Yes, they have been spotted other places, but these are the main ones that we talk about today. So the skinwalkers that were spotted in Arizona were reddish brown with huge arms and matted hair that pretty much go perfect with the primal beast image that we talk about, that you hear about. The muscles and tendons appear to rip beneath the matted hair, and their hands are the size of a big cantaloupe. The fingers are slightly darker compared to the rest of the body, as if it was stained with something, and the paws are thick and sharp, perfect for hunting and killing. Another fact about them is that skinwalkers can run far greater distances than normal people. They're said to be able to run for 200 miles at a time, which I can't even run for a quarter of a mile, let alone 200.
So some of the additional powers that skinwalkers are claimed to have had, besides just the transforming into beasts, is they can read other people's minds, they can control their thoughts and behaviors. Using dark magic, they can cause disease or illness, destroying of property, and even causing death. Some of the people that talk about their encounters with skinwalkers describe a number of ways that the skinwalker is near before they actually see it. Sometimes they make sounds around the homes, such as knocking on windows, banging on walls, the sound of scraping noises on the roof. They've been seen peering through windows. More often they appear in front of a vehicle in hopes of causing a serious accident. A lot of the times that'll be in the shape of an animal. A vehicle swerves to try and miss it, and then as the vehicle gets closer, it'll turn back into the, humanoid or partial human.
Do you think that they're real?
I think that much like the origins of zombies, there is truth to it, and then it gets slightly exaggerated as the story gets told over and over and over.
Okay. So isn't that kind of what a legend is?
Yeah. Cultures all over the world have the same kind of thing, like King Arthur. Like, do I think this one guy did all of the things King Arthur did? No. Or even, like Ragnar Lothbrok, who more people might be familiar with. There was a guy named Ragnar, but I don't know if he did all of the things that the show Vikings claimed he did.
Okay. Do you think that the transformation between between the animal and the human, do you think that actually happens?
I think that's probably more they put on the fur of whatever animal they're trying to channel. And that's, again, something that, multiple cultures have believed in, of, whether it's just other Native American tribes or European tribes. Like, as people go into battle, they wear the skin of a bear to think that they're going to be able to take the power of the bear and be more, have greater strength, or a wolf with the pack mentality and being a more cunning or vicious foe.
Yeah, when I was doing some of the research for this, the images that I had found, I can imagine if I was driving down the road and this person jumped out in the middle of the road with all this stuff on, costume, skin, furs, I would probably think it had transformed into something else too.
Yeah.
It is said that in addition to being able to shapeshift, the Skinwalker is also able to control the creatures of the night, like wolves or owls, and to make them do its bidding. Some are able to call up the spirits of the dead and reanimate the corpses to attack their enemies. What do you think of that?
So I think as far as controlling animals, sometimes when there's not a different explanation, higher powers or black magic gets a lot of the credit, even though sometimes things just happen because they happen.
We'll get into this a little bit later about Skinwalker Ranch, but so you think that there's always some scientific explanation for things? Is that your belief system?
I would say more often than not there's a scientific reason, but the why it happened to a certain person isn't always clear.
Okay. When they have been seen, they have been described as not quite human and not fully animal. They are usually naked, but some have reported seeing the creature wearing tattered shirts or jeans. So with that description, all I can think about is like the cliche 80s, 90s werewolf where they, black belt and torn jeans because he wolfs out right there at prom or whatever. Like, that's just a very cliche image of a werewolf to me. And I feel like werewolf and Skinwalker kind of get meshed together because of Skinwalkers wearing the furs and stuff. But I don't necessarily think one is the other. I think they're two separate things.
Right. Yeah, like I said, though, like, if partial tattered clothing or the being completely naked and partially animal very much goes in line with the wearing a skinned fur, and then you're not going to want to wear your best 3-piece suit under a under a skin or a pelt, so you would probably wear already messed up clothes or not anything just to make it look better.
Right. And I mean, you have to be more flexible the more undressed you are, right? So not wearing clothes and just wearing the fur seems like you'd have the ability to run faster or jump better or that type of thing.
Yeah, well, and I've also experienced where time seems to slow down, like as you're perceiving it. So
wasn't that just adrenaline?
Yeah, and so if you're not accustomed to experiencing that, like adrenaline kicking in and you being able to process things faster than normal, it might appear like somebody is running even faster than they actually are, but in reality they're running at the normal speed. You're just more in tune with what's happening at a faster rate than you're used to.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. And how would they even know how far a Skinwalker can run anyway? How do they track that?
Yeah, that's the interesting part. If they're so impossible to catch, how do you know that? Or, somebody saw somebody duck behind a rock, a few hundred meters away, and then they see a coyote and a few hundred meters past that, and they're like, oh, that must have been a Skinwalker. Well, no, it's really the guy's still behind the rock, and that coyote just happened to be out there.
Right. Coincidence, timing.
Right.
So it's said that the Skinwalker kills out of greed or anger, envy, spite, or revenge. It also robs graves for personal wealth and to collect much-needed ingredients for use in black magic. These witches live on the unexpired lives of their victims, and they must continually kill or perish themselves.
Yeah, Skinwalkers and other witches have long been blamed for all manners of unexpected struggles, tragedies throughout the years, including sickness, drought, poor crops, sudden death, even smaller individual problems such as windstorms during dances, alienation of affection by mates, the death of livestock, and the reversal of fortune were often believed to be the work of this witch that is a Skinwalker. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying, like, sometimes people get more credit than they actually deserve, and maybe that person's fortune, for example, like they just made some bad investments or weren't budgeting correctly and thought it would all work out, and it didn't, and it must have been a Skinwalker instead of,
or they're gamblers or something, and it's easier to blame a Skinwalker than admit that they're gambling.
Or sometimes people just get sick, like you are right now. I don't think there's a Skinwalker out there trying to...
I've been cursed.
trying to curse you. I think you just happen to get sick.
Another story tells of a man who was making repairs on an old ranch home when he began to hear loud laughter coming from the nearby sheep pens. Thinking he was alone, he went to investigate and found all of the sheep but one huddled in one corner of the pen. However, there was a lone ram separated from the group that was standing upright and laughing in a very human manner. Nope. I'm straight out of there.
Yeah, go ahead and leave in that barn.
After the man locks eyes with the ram, oh Lord, I got the heebies. After the man locks eyes with the ram, he sees that his eyes are not that of an animal, but very like a human's. The animal then casually walked away on all four legs. Some say they have seen them running through the night, sometimes turning into a fiery ball, leaving streaks of color behind them. Others have seen angry-looking humanoid figures looking down on them from cliffs, mountains, and mesas. We talk about mesas later, too.
Yeah.
So, let me tell you, if I walk out in 5 years from now, we're living in Wisconsin, and I walk out into our pen, and my Highland Coo is laughing at me, it's going to take a lot more than a tinfoil hat for me.
So in the 1980s, there's a pretty notable event that occurred where there was a family driving through a Navajo reservation. They slowed down to make a sharp curve. Something jumped from a ditch. It was described as black, hairy, and wore a shirt and pants. A few days after this event at their home in Flagstaff, Arizona, the family was awakened to the sounds of loud drumming and chanting. Outside their home were three dark forms of, air quotes, men outside their fence. These shadowy figures were seemingly unable to climb the fence and soon left.
So, we kind of talked about this, but are Skinwalkers real?
I mean, do I think there are people that practice dark magic from the Navajo tribe and are kind of outcasts and go about doing bad things that are referred to as Skinwalkers? Yeah, probably. Can they fully transform into some kind of animal? I don't know if I am 100% sold on that. Or do they have the ability to control other people's actions or truly read their thoughts? I don't know. But I do know that from reading body language and micro expressions, you can typically gain a lot from a person, and they're telling you more than they think they are just by you observing them.
Just so I get it straight, you don't think that magical transformations happen?
I don't think there are people that fully transform or even half transform into a actual beast. I think they throw on the skin of the animal that has the characteristics that they want to embody in that moment.
Yeah, and then they just are perceived to be transformed.
Right.
So, do you believe that there's other life somewhere else?
Off the planet?
Yeah, like aliens?
I think it's a very big assumption of the human race to think we are the only intellectual species in the universe.
So you believe that there's other intellectual, what did you call it? Species, intellectual species out there, but you don't believe that there's magical transformations between one and the other?
Magical? No.
Oh, so you think it's scientifical?
I don't know if I believe that something that looks vaguely humanoid can fully change its appearance to be fully wolf-like.
Interesting. Well, I'm gonna reach over here and put on my tinfoil hat.
I'll join you.
And we're gonna switch over to I think it's pronounced Uinta Basin. I'm not sure how to pronounce that one for sure. And that's where Skinwalker Ranch is located. Will and I have been watching we watched Skinwalker Ranch on Netflix, but it was originally a History Channel series, I guess. And I got suggested it when I got suggested to do Skinwalkers as an episode. But we binge watched that to see what that show was all about the ranch. And after watching that, I have mixed reviews.
In our defense, we have only watched season 1.
There's only season 1?
No, there are 3 seasons. Just only one of them is on Netflix.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Season 2 is available on History Channel. And season 3, we have to be subscribed to some kind of network provider.
Oh, man. Somebody send me the episode so I can watch it. Anyways, so we watched season 1 then. And before watching this show, I was 100% sold on there is some sort of somewhere else other than Earth, some sort of life form somewhere. I believed that 100%. Now, after watching that show, I feel like if there was some intellectual beings somewhere else, they're not going to want to have any part with us. Like, why would they come here and deal with us?
I would agree that if they are advanced enough to travel however far through space
or time,
or time, we could talk wormholes, to get to Earth, and then they look down on us and they're like, yeah, no, we are probably like the Alabama of the universe.
Oh, I didn't say. You said it.
I did.
Please don't hate me, Alabama. He's only on here part-time. They're going to boycott me.
Oh no, you lost one listener.
Oh no. Well, I don't want to hinder the future. All right, so we started watching this show, and it's about where they do all these testings on Skinwalker Ranch, and I had researched Skinwalker Ranch before I started watching the show, and in my research is how I discovered this show even was going on.
The ranch is located in northwest Utah, which is one of the common places where skinwalkers claim to have been sighted. Back in the 1860s, the Ute and the Navajo tribe were two of the major tribes that populated the area. There was a uneasy relationship between them. It involves one tribe periodically enslaving the other tribe. During the Civil War, these tribes deteriorated completely, and the Utes betrayed the Navajo by allying with Kit Carson, who was a U.S. Army general, and led a brutal campaign to oust the Navajo from their land. With the help of the Ute and other tribes, the occupation was successful. So the Navajo surrendered. They were forced to march to a reservation in Fort Sumner. The Ute eventually moved onto the reservation in the Uinta Basin. And kind of on their way out, the Navajo put this curse on the land and the Ute tribe.
At least the Ute is convinced of that.
Right. The Ute believe that the Navajo cursed them basically on their way out. Basically, it's the path of the Skinwalker now. I think the name of the show is the name of the ranch is a little misleading, or this show at least is a little misleading, because once you get past kind of like episode 2, it diverts a lot from like, hey, we're trying to spot skinwalkers in their kind of traditional sense of, black magic practitioners of the Navajo tribe. And they definitely start going into all these like extraterrestrial phenomena and UFOs and...
Right. Well, I took it that Skinwalker Ranch was called that because of the ridge that was in there.
Right.
Is called Skinwalker Ridge or something.
Right.
And so it's kind of deceiving because it makes you think that you're going to be finding skinwalkers, but like you said, it's kind of divided between both, because at one point they have alpacas that are getting attacked, and that kind of seems like it's by a creature or some sort of humanoid something. And then the next episode or the next couple episodes is about seeing UFOs and cows dying because of the UFOs. And so it's kind of misleading. I went into Skinwalker Ranch expecting some sort of beast like that, a little less about extraterrestrial type. But the Ute believed that the Skinwalker Ranch is right in the path of the monsters and largely avoid going to the ranch or entering its territory. So if you look kind of at a map, the Ute reservation is on one side and the Skinwalker Ridge is kind of on the north side of it. And the ranch it's like 512 acres, and it's just so much land, and on the show is so much being reported happening on there. But I was surprised that it seemed more about the UFOs and that type of thing, and chemical stuff happening, and just different than what I expected it to be about.
I thought it was going to be more finding Bigfoot, less ancient aliens.
I agree, yes. I guess after watching that show, I don't feel like I learned anything more about whether they exist or not. I just feel like it showed that part of the ranch having these experiences and what they did during these experiences, I guess. So Skinwalker Ranch, for those of you who don't know, is also known as Sherman Ranch. It's a property, like I said, of about 512 acres located southeast of Ballard, Utah, and it's
reputed to be the site of paranormal and UFO-related activities. This name is taken from the Skinwalker of Navajo legend concerning vengeful shaman.
So the rest of America got its first real taste of the Navajo legend in 1996. The Desert News published an article titled Frequent Flyers, and the story chronicled a Utah family's traumatizing experience with the supposed creature that included cattle mutilations and disappearances and UFO sightings and the appearance of crop circles. So that was one thing that wasn't touched on the show was crop circles, but the UFO sightings happened and wasn't necessarily cattle mutilation, but it was, they did have a cow die.
Yeah, unexplainable death of a cow that was away from the rest of the herd.
Yeah, they chalked it up to stress and that it just died because of stress.
Yeah.
The story in the Desert News was the family's most distressing encounter occurred one night just 18 months after moving onto the ranch, when Terry Sherman, the father of the family, was walking his dogs around the ranch late at night when he encountered a wolf. And it wasn't an ordinary wolf. It was about 3 times bigger than a normal one, had glowing red eyes, and stood unfazed by 3 close-range shots Sherman blasted into its hide.
So they talk about that in the show a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
They say it's a 357 that Terry shot into him, and apparently the wolf stayed long enough for them to decide that a 357 wasn't big enough, so somebody ran back to the house and brought a 30-06, which is like a proper rifle round, and shot this wolf thing again. I've spent a fair amount of time in the woods in the dark, and I know that in the dark things look a lot bigger than they really are. I've also not seen enough wolves firsthand to be able to tell what is a really big wolf versus a average sized wolf versus a small wolf.
Right, like or a wild one versus one in captivity type.
Right,
what
right.
the size difference is.
I do know that inside of a pack of wolves, they have what is called a bruiser, who is not typically the alpha, and it is usually the biggest of the wolves in the pack, and those are kind of the ones that they put out front when they walk, in case something happens, or if they're running into another pack and they have to fight. The bruisers are the biggest ones in the pack who do a lot of the, fighting or taking down of the animals. So maybe it just happened to be a bruiser from the local pack of wolves that, yes, is slightly bigger, probably not 3 times the size of an average wolf.
Well, that's one of those things that gets transferred into bigger and bigger as the story goes on.
It's a lot better story if the wolf is 3 times as big, as opposed to, it was a big wolf. No, this thing was 3 times the size of a regular wolf.
Right. And in the 1950s, the UFO sightings in the area really picked up, and with people all over the Uinta Basin reporting everything from glowing orbs darting around in the sky or emerging from bodies of water in the region to actual metallic aircraft suspended overhead. Shortly after UFO sightings started happening, another paranormal activity started, and it was cattle mutilations. So they touched on this a little bit in the show as well. They actually had, I can't remember her name, but she came out to the ranch, and she was a world-renowned cattle mutilation expert. And I can't even imagine how you become to get to that title. Like, that just sounds like a horrible job to have to do.
What are the credential steps for that? Like, how do you become a cattle mutilation expert?
I just feel like you have to go to so many, and she had started from the 60s. Like, why would you want to in the first?
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to have curiosity, but I don't want to go see dead cows.
Just traveling the country looking at...
She was world, so she'd been all over the place.
All over the world. Oh, even better.
Yeah, no thank
That's
you.
an expensive plane ticket to go look up at a
dead cow.
Go look at a chewed up cow. Yeah.
Nothing like flying across the world, though. Smell a cow and see one. Yikes.
I grew up close enough to enough dairy farms. I don't need to travel the world to smell cows.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we had cows, and I was around for one of the dissections when one had swallowed a rag and we had to pull it out of its stomachs. And let me tell you, that was enough to... I will never be a cow mutilation expert, that's for sure.
So you and Han agree that you thought they smelled bad on the outside?
I don't get that joke.
So Han Solo...
Was he the one that climbed into the body of the other thing?
Well, he's the one that sliced open the Wampa when Luke was going to freeze on Hoth. And as soon as he slices it open and you see the guts come out, and he's like, and I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Because of how much more they smelled on the inside.
Yeah, I wouldn't be climbing inside any animal to keep warm.
But when you're on Hoth...
I mean, I guess, and if you're desperate...
Yeah.
I guess, but...
I mean, I'd climb inside a muskox out on the tundra if I needed to. And then I'd get accused of being a skinwalker because this muskox was walking around on two legs.
I guess. We are very different people. So Terry and Gwen Sherman first observed UFOs of varying sizes hovering above their property. Then 7 of their cows died or disappeared. One was reportedly found with a hole cut into the center of its left eyeball. Another had its rectum carved out. Gross. The cattle the Shermans did find dead were both surrounded by an odd chemical smell. One was found dead in a clump of trees. The branches above appeared to have been cut off. One of the cows that had vanished had left tracks in the snow that had just suddenly stopped. So I feel like that's a very cliche image that they're painting with that one. Mm-hmm. That it just got the UFO, just sucked it right up into there for testing.
Yeah, just like a vacuum.
Yeah, I guess. If it's snow, it's hard for a 1,200 or 1,400 pound animal to just walk off without leaving tracks or to stop and walk backwards completely and never miss their tracks, according to Terry. And it was just gone. It was very bizarre.
So my question is, cattle abduction seems to be a fairly common trend with UFO stories. Mm-hmm. If these beings are smart enough to travel across all kinds of space and potentially all kinds of time.
I can see where this is going.
And they can observe the planet. Why did they target on cows? Like,
yep, that's where I thought it was going.
Yep, I mean,
why cows?
Yeah, why cows? I don't get it.
There's been stories of people being abducted.
Yeah, and then they get probed and then they get thrown back, and that's another thing. If somebody truly gets abducted by some other set of life forms, I don't think we're ever seeing that person again. Because if you think about how humans, when we find a brand new species, what do? We catch one and we bring it into captivity and we start running all kinds of tests on it. And one of two things happens. We keep it in captivity so long that it dies of old age because we're just constantly trying to run tests and study it. Or it dies sooner rather than later because one of the tests it had a adverse reaction to, like, oh, what happens when we give it this chemical? Right. Oh, it died.
Or we took it out of its natural habitat or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think these, beings that are smart enough to travel across the galaxy want to pick up Jimbo and,
Jimbo.
take him for a weekend and maybe do some probing and then throw Jimbo back. Like,
well, they realized he wasn't a cow.
I mean, I guess... I don't understand why cows are so commonly abducted or mutilated.
I don't know. I think that one really got used in the public eye as far as movies and stuff like that. It definitely. But I mean, it has some history to it in beliefs that, cows were mutilated and stolen. So movies, directors just make it out to be even more dramatic than what it is.
Well, and like a mutilated cow, like, granted, I haven't firsthand seen a lot of them, but I can only imagine if a pack of wolves gets their hands on a cow and their intent is to eat it, it's probably not going to be, like, nicely, cleanly cut into T-bone steaks. It's probably going to be pretty chewed up.
Well, that's what the story is, though, is that they don't believe it's, wolves because blood is drained from the cows and their parts look like they're cut, and instead of chewed on, there's not a bloody mess everywhere. It's clean and nothing is missing, or everything's missing, and that's the problem.
Well, sometimes that's the story, but other times it's just the cow got ripped apart and is all kinds of shredded, which very much sounds like, to me, a pack of wolves, or maybe, it died for whatever reason and coyotes got it, because I don't think coyotes typically take down cows, but wolves definitely could. Right. Or, the ravens or crows or buzzards or whatever other kind of, fox, free meal come along, or I don't know, maybe it's one of them daggum chupacabras. We'll talk more about them later. Sure.
Yes, we will.
On another episode.
So tune in for the chupacabra episode coming up. Wait to what do they call that when you...
Flawless segue.
Nice job.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. The good looks, the tinfoil hats, and the flawless segues.
Oh, okay.
Want me to do it?
Yes.
Alright, so the Shermans ended up selling the property, but the incidents didn't stop with the Shermans. So they moved out. Several new owners experienced eerily similar encounters with these creatures, and today the ranch has become a hub of paranormal research that's aptly renamed Skinwalker Ranch. Flying object enthusiast, and he's a realtor down in Vegas, Robert Bigelow, bought the ranch for $200,000 in '96 from the Sherman family. He established the National Institute for Discovery Science on the grounds, and he put up a substantial surveillance around the area. The goal was to assess what exactly was going on there. On March 12th, 1997, Bigelow's employee, biochemist Dr. Colm Keller, spotted a large humanoid figure perched in a tree. Keller fired at the supposed Skinwalker with a rifle, but it fled. It left claw marks and imprints on the ground. Keller described the evidence as signs of a bird of prey, maybe a raptor print, but huge, and from the depth of the print, from a very heavy creature. So I have kind of some concerns about that. So you see this humanoid thing in a tree, and you shoot at it?
Well, it's threatening.
It's
in a tree. You telling me you go outside and you see some humanoid-looking creature in a tree and you're not going to freak out? You should be like, what's up, bro? How's a tree?
I feel like that's just a little bit hasty to be shooting guns at stuff. Like, what if it was somebody that just climbed in a tree to do some bird watching?
Why are they in your tree?
Maybe it was another employee. I don't know.
What kind of drugs are they on? Bath salts?
Maybe it was Marty McFly.
Time?
He's up there for bird watching. So this incident was only a few days after another unnerving incident had already occurred. The ranch manager and his wife had just tagged a calf before their dog began acting strangely. They went back to investigate 45 minutes later, and in the field in broad daylight found the calf and its body cavity empty, said Keller. Most people know if a 84-pound calf is killed, there's blood spread around. It was as if all the blood had been removed in a very thorough way.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Where'd all the blood go?
I don't know.
Your Marty McFly in the tree there sucked all its blood away.
The distressing activity continued well into the summer. 3 eyewitnesses saw a very large animal in a tree and also another large animal at the base of a tree, continued Keller. We had videotape equipment, night vision equipment. We started hunting around the tree for the carcass, and there was no evidence whatsoever. So maybe this is just me, but pics or it never happened.
When was this? What
97?
Year? Oh, it was that recent? Oh, yeah, it was.
Yep.
March 12th of 97.
Right.
Okay.
So I understand, video abilities weren't, super HD 4K resolution.
Right, but you just flip open your flip phone here and snap a pic real quick.
He says they had video and night vision, and I've seen night vision from the mid-90s, and it wasn't great, but I've never seen any pictures or videos claiming these sightings whatsoever. Now, granted, I might not have just, dug hard enough, but it kind of sounds a lot like, oh, I have this evidence of this thing, but I'm not going to show you the evidence, so you just have to, believe what I say.
Believe it.
Drink.
So, ultimately, Bigelow and his research team experienced over 100 incidents on the property, but couldn't amass the kind of evidence that scientific publication would accept with credulity.
They weren't credible. They couldn't provide,
Okay.
enough stuff that the scientific community felt was creditable to buy into these sightings.
So Bigelow eventually sold the ranch to a company called Adamantium Holdings for $4.5 million in 2016. And since taking over Skinwalker Ranch, Adamantium has installed equipment all over the property, including cameras, alarm systems, infrared, and more. So this Adamantium, that was never mentioned in Skinwalker Ranch show. They didn't talk about that company.
No, they didn't.
But that's who is owning it now and who the show was on.
Yeah.
Most alarming, however, are the accounts from company employees. So basically the people that we saw on the show. There was accounts of...
Oh, well, that was just like a radiation burn.
Yeah, that was one of the things on the show, was that they were experiencing radiation at different levels, and they talked about
all kinds of radio frequencies and light spectrum stuff that you can't see with the naked eye.
Well, what I was going to say was the atom bomb, or the nuclear bomb testing. You want to talk about that?
If you want, yeah. So the testing prior to, or in the early 1940s, prior to us employing it on Japan, they detonated some out in, was it Nevada?
Yeah,
the Nevada desert,
think,
and then...
Because it was west of Vegas on the map.
Yeah. Apparently, judging by wind patterns at the time, a lot of the fallout and the particles were pushed from the detonation site up to this location now known as Skinwalker Ranch.
At least that's what they believed happened.
Yeah, that's one of the theories on why there's a bunch of crazy occurrences and radioactive activity. And
I mean, I can see that, but this long after, do you think there's still remnants of that?
I don't know. I mean, there's still certain parts around Hiroshima and Nagasaki that I feel like have pretty high levels.
Yeah, and Chernobyl.
Yeah, and Chernobyl. Can we just back up a minute and go back to the name of this company?
Yeah.
Adamantium Holdings. Adamantium is the fake metal that is in Wolverine. So this company is named after
Fake.
a metal that exists only in comic books.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought it sounded familiar. I wanted to double check before I called them out on it, but yeah.
Interesting. Maybe that's why they don't announce it on the show, is they want the show to seem a little more legit.
That could be. I mean, I don't know who started Adamantium Holdings, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what Wolverine's like claws are, and sure enough, it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Conspiracy. It's all a conspiracy. I'm not a member, but you can go to their website at join.skinwalker-ranch.com, and you can get a membership where you can get exclusive Skinwalker Ranch content, like access to ranch webcams and giveaways and meet and greets, and you can get behind the scenes with Skinwalker Ranch owner. His name is Brandon Fugel, and he's on the show a little bit. I am by no way endorsed by them, but I did check out the website, and I do think it's kind of cool to be able to see what they're seeing on the cameras and stuff, so that part's kind of cool. And they give you access to confidential historical data as well. Before we jump to North Carolina, I do want to pause and jump over to New Mexico. When I was suggested Skinwalkers and Skinwalker Ranch, it was brought to my attention about, I don't know if you guys know about Courage the Cowardly Dog. It was a cartoon show from like the 90s on Cartoon Network, and it is actually based on a true story, that show. And I wanted to just clarify that show, the house that it was based on, is in New Mexico. It is not this house in Utah, because that was kind of a confusion thing, because the house in New Mexico was actually, it had Skinwalker history, you know.
Okay.
It had Skinwalker history on it, and so I just wanted to make it clear that is two different locations. I can talk more about that one at another time, but it is not Skinwalker Ranch, despite them having this similar history anyway. The one in New Mexico is completely different than this one. That one has more to do with murder and killing than Skinwalkers and UFOs type. So anyways, we'll jump over to the Skinwalker legend in North Carolina that says that Skinwalker prowls around the area looking for prey. And someone said that he and his dog chased what looked to be a bear into the river, and then it stood up, turned into a man, and jumped into the water. So I feel like that part of that one definitely falls under the wearing the fur, that he got wet, so he had to stand up and take the fur off, and it looked like he was changing into a man in the dark.
Yep.
So I get that one for sure. And another instance is where a young boy was riding with his uncle, and Skinwalkers jump onto the vehicle and in the back of the truck trying to get the riders to look at it. I don't know why they would do that for, but I mean...
Unless it was in line to cause the vehicle accident. But I'm not sure how in line with the Navajo history of Skinwalkers, like, is them trying to cause vehicle accidents.
Right. Another instance details children home alone while their parents were away for a few hours. One teen sees someone going through things in a vehicle outside, so he goes to see, and it's a weird-looking animal, and he tries to shoot it, but the gun stops working, which apparently is a common theme with Skinwalkers. The parents arrive home, and the father and sons chase it off the land. As the Skinwalker jumps into the darkness, the father says the name of the witch, and supposedly the person died the next day. So apparently that story is they knew the person that changed into it, and I just think that that's, I don't know, seems far-fetched. It seems like a campfire story or something like that, but I guess that's what we do here as legends, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit different viewpoint of Skinwalkers in North Carolina versus Utah.
Yeah, I think they share a name, and that's about it. I don't necessarily believe that what is being called a Skinwalker in North Carolina has the same origins as the Skinwalkers from, like, the Navajo tribe.
Right, I agree. Like I said, up until this point, I thought Skinwalkers were more werewolfy, not so much legend of... I didn't know anything about the Navajo legend like that before we started doing research for this. And I had mentioned in the Wendigo episode that Skinwalkers were more like with medicine men and that type of thing, man-made. I didn't realize how Native American legend-based they were until this. So that was interesting for me to learn. I did think that Skinwalkers were more beast-based, I guess, kind of closer to the Wendigo than actual what Skinwalker is, I guess.
Okay.
I did look up. In 1987, Skinwalkers burst into the wider public consciousness when they were used actually as a defense in a murder trial in Flagstaff, Arizona. The body of a 40-year-old Navajo woman named Sarah Saganitso was found behind the hospital where she worked. A former English professor at Northern Arizona University named George Abney was accused, arrested, and taken to trial. The defense argued that a Skinwalker had killed Saganitso based on the fact that she was Navajo and found with a broken stick across her throat and a clump of graveyard grass near her truck. The defense claimed the two objects were evidence of a Skinwalker ritual, and George Abney was at first found guilty but then acquitted a year later. There is so many books about Skinwalkers. Some of them are real accounts. Some of them are fiction. Some of them that I mentioned here, both of them are by Ryan T. Skinner. It's called Digging into Skinwalker Ranch by Ryan T. Skinner and Skinwalker Ranch, Path of the Skinwalker. So some of the movies, of course there is a bunch of movies and shows. There's Skinwalkers, the Navajo Mysteries, Skinwalkers, the 2002 film. They remade it again in 2006. They made it again in 2021, which is kind of re-brought up the legend a little bit more, brought it back to the public eye again. Some of the shows in episode 19 of the X-Files, a Native American Skinwalker with the ability to transform into a wolf is featured. I'm curious, as these shows and movies were coming out, how Native American tribes viewed that, if they thought it was not good to be publicizing this, if they viewed it negatively. I'm curious as to how that was viewed.
My guess is there probably wasn't a lot of support from the native tribes.
I mean, I would imagine not.
Yeah, bringing the spotlight on it.
Right. In the book series Experiment in Terror by Karina Hale, the book Red Fox revolves around skinwalkers. In the movie Skinwalkers, directed by James Isaac, that revolves around a pack of skinwalkers trying to get the son of their leader back. And Hail Stephen King, in The Dark Tower, The Wind Through the Keyhole, it contains a person named the Skin Man, who is a shapeshifter who terrorizes the town by transforming into various animals at night and embarking on murderous rampages. So Stephen King did books on the Wendigo, and he did books on the Skinwalker, so that's pretty cool. In the film Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the Native American warrior Nightwolf acted as a skinwalker by transforming into a wolf. Did you know that?
I did not.
I didn't know that either. In the second season of Smallville, which I've not ever seen Smallville, have you?
No.
The episode Skinwalker, a young Native American woman that can assume the form of a white wolf, is featured. So I do have to say, on a side note, at least they are sticking with the right culture.
Yeah.
When they do the Skinwalker thing, it's not a white person
they're
doing
not
that.
fully assimilating.
Before we go too far into race here, I think it's cool and good that they're keeping with that part of it, at least. That probably helps with the negativity from tribes. They were featured on an episode of Lost Tapes. Several episodes of the TV series Supernatural feature villainous skinwalkers. In Monsters and Mysteries in America, the skinwalker was a subject in the episode Desert Wasteland and was suspected for many livestock massacres. So I feel like as a skinwalker, the cattle mutilations and the livestock stuff makes sense. But when you go a little too far into the UFO category, I feel like that part doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I feel like they're getting off topic at that point.
Right. In the SCP Foundation, the SCP known as Bobby the Clown states that it was the Skinwalker all along. The Skinwalker lore is very similar to Old Norse stories of berserkers. Did you know that?
I mean, I knew there were kind of similarities. I didn't put them together necessarily, but yeah, with berserkers wearing, hides and furs of powerful creatures into battle, and then, eating some kind of mushroom or drinking some kind of potion, and I use that term loosely, to become battle raged, and their whole goal is to cause as much destruction inside the battle as possible. It could definitely be seen as like this guy transformed into a bear and just ripped through all these people. Yep,
I can see that. In the Mercy Thompson novels by Patricia Briggs, the main character is a coyote skinwalker. I feel like that one's a little more unusual because normally it's a wolf or bear. In the short-lived TV show Freak Encounters, they used a skinwalker to instill fear in the victim of the episode. Oh, Mortal Kombat again. Mm-hmm. In Mortal Kombat 9, the character Nightwolf has an alternate costume that resembles a skiker with a wolf's pelt on the head. As far as pop culture, with the clothing, Skinwalker shirts on Zazzle. There's Skinwalker ranch shirts on MontyShopping.com. Skinwalker stickers on Etsy and eBay. On eBay, they have UFO ones for Skinwalker Ranch. They kind of have their emblem that kind of looks like Biohazard with a little alien head on the inside. Apparently, there was a clip on TikTok, too. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. In 2021, a clip was released on TikTok that showed a strange skeletal creature jumping from a grassy patch of wilderness. It apparently got 6 million views and tons of comments hypothesizing that the creature was a skinwalker. And in fact, clips with that hashtag skinwalker have a total of more than 1 billion views on that social media platform. Apparently, a Navajo creator named John Soto raised the profile of the creature when in fall 2020 he posted a series of videos of himself looking for skinwalkers on his Arizona property that went viral and garnered millions of views. So you have competition for hunting for cryptids. You're going to have to be on TikTok.
Well, skinwalkers aren't cryptids.
I guess
They're
that's a
witches.
different category of competition, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm looking for chupacabras and Bigfoots and hodags and yetis and wampahoofi. That's the plural of wampahoofus, by the way.
I know what it is. You not listen to my last episode? What'd you find for alcohol before we go?
So a company called Mythic Brewing makes a American IPA that they call Skinwalker. It is 7.8, which is fairly in line with IPAs, if I remember correctly. I don't drink IPAs, but I know they're a bit heavier than typical beers.
Well, yeah, so that's about what we have on Skinwalkers and Skinwalker Ranch. It was a little bit of a longer episode, so thanks for hanging out with us this whole time. Hopefully my voice will be back by the next episode. January is quite a busy month for us, so we'll have to kind of see what the episodes are going to be as we wing it a little bit this month. Thanks for tuning in, and please make sure to share and head over to Patreon so you can become a member and help support our episodes. Make sure you're checking out our website, which is nightmaresatmidnightpodcast.buzzsprout.com. Check it out. Let me know that you're there. Check us out on Facebook. Share us on Facebook. We want to keep getting the word out and grow our podcast. I think about in February, we're going to do a couple different interviews. We're going to touch on some more UFO stuff. So tune in for that for sure in February. And we'll have to see what next week's episode is about. So thanks for tuning in, and catch us next time.